If I was to say the words electric racing to you, you'd probably think of this, slot car racing, which takes place here at Millstream Model Raceway in Ringwood. But what if we could take it up again? What if we could make it life-size?
Startplatz 4 ist ja wohl das Mindeste.
This is Formula E, the first fully electric racing series. How does it work? How does it engage new audiences?
The next technological breakthrough.
What does urban racing mean? And where is this sport going to be in 5 years' time?
Whoa.
I've come to the Berlin E-Prix to find out more about this sport, and it takes place here, Tempelhof Airport, legendary venue that's hosted an E-Prix 3 times now. So why is Formula E so unique? Formula E took to the start line in 2014, founded by Alejandro Agag. It's part of the FIA, and there are 10 teams with 2 drivers, which race across the world, from Marrakesh to Montreal. Mark Priestley presents Formula E's YouTube coverage, and I met him to learn what makes Formula E so enthralling.
I mean, Formula E is this fascinating championship, now in its 3rd season. It's obviously based around electric cars, so very different from anything that's gone before. But on the face of it, if you just flicked your TV on and looked at the cars, looked at the championship, it looks more or less like any other single-seater racing championship, though it's almost the same, but very different.
That's what a Formula E car looks like. About 5 metres long, just under 2 metres wide. They can hit 140 miles per hour and just under 270 brake horsepower. While they may not be as powerful as a Formula 1 car, the course makes up for that. The course in Berlin measures 2.2 kilometres, just over a mile, but it's narrow and bendy, making for competitive racing.
You're still trying to get your car to the checkered flag quicker than anybody else, so the principles of racing are still there and are still the same. And so far we've seen some amazing races where you get into the last lap of a race and you still have no idea who's going to win. So I think from that point of view that is fantastic. That's what Formula 1 has dreamt of having for the last few years. And so I think to switch over to Formula E every now and again and just see a really unpredictable battle, and that's what Formula E is, it's unpredictable. And I think in any sporting sense you can't ask for much more than that.
Tight racing, pit lane tactics, it offers everything you want from motorsport, but with a green footprint. The sport also has its stars. It's the French team Renault-Edam that are the tour de force of this sport right now. And that man over there, Sebastian Buemi of Switzerland, is leading the championship at 132 points as we come to Berlin. What's it like to be a Formula E champion?
I mean, here we all know that everything can go well or bad very quickly in a Formula E car. You don't have much preparation, so we are leading the championship. We were leading the championship after Buenos Aires by nearly 30 points, and we left Mexico with just 5 points. So we need to keep in mind that things can change quickly, and that's why we will focus on just achieving the maximum.
Whilst these cars really do look the part, they also play their part environmentally too. There's not a single bit of petrol around here. So how does this work? It all comes from a battery here at the back of the car. It produces a maximum of 170 kilowatts in a race, which converts to 56 kilowatts per hour. That's the same as 20,000 AA batteries. And it brings excitement to the drivers.
It's the hardest championship I've ever done. In terms of the team competition and the driver competition, it's fierce.
In fact, the environmental message here is unequivocal. Even the safety cars are electric, the very rare BMW i8. And there are electric scooters as well. Everything is run on electricity.
It's super busy. Also with the energy saving, the lift and coast and the regen, we're very busy behind the wheel, relaying information to the team, taking information, adjusting our strategy, stay on top of the brake pass. It's easily the hardest mentally behind the wheel car that I've driven.
The batteries could produce more power, but are limited to create a level field. These are fast cars, not milk floats these drivers are dealing with. Here in the pit lane, races are won or lost in motorsport. But things are different here. There is no fast recharge, although it is in the pipeline, so drivers must change cars, literally. This can be hazardous, as seen here in Buenos Aires. In fact, this danger put Formula E on the map when Nick Heidfeld crashed at the very first race in Beijing 2014.
It wasn't the best thing that could have ever happened. If he'd been injured, it would have been the worst thing Formula E could have ever had. But because it was so spectacular, it got Formula E, for example, onto the news at 10 in the UK. It would have never had that otherwise. So it's one of those things that you kind of take it and use it as a little bit of PR. Luckily, everybody was fine. There were no injuries. But it could have been very easily a different story just after that first race.
Formula E hasn't looked back since. So a controversial moment kicked this sport off, but another one has kept it going. The Fan Boost, a unique opportunity for fans to directly influence events. Fans are given one vote for their favourite driver to give them a power boost for the race. The top 3 receive 30 kilowatts of extra energy. Head of digital content Andrew van der Bird tells me how the teams use this.
There is no other sport in which you can have a direct, tangible influence on the performance of the team. You know, you would like to think, if you're in the whole end or if you're cheering your team on, that the passion and however you get behind people is enough to inspire them to do better. Right? But that doesn't actually make that ball go over the line. You know, it doesn't actually make that sliding tackle actually work. Whereas here, you can give your driver or the person you believe is engaged with you the most more power. It's a one-off shot, so you only get it once. So it's basically one free, if it's used correctly, one free overtake.
As a result, the fan base has grown. Google Analytics from the first race in 2014 show a rise in interest through the years. The peaks and troughs indicate heightened interest in each race, a similar pattern to Formula 1.
Amazingly, Formula E's only been going 3 seasons, but we managed to cover 2 British general elections. And during the previous one, the DS Virgin Racing team did this great campaign where they had Sam Bird and his teammate at the time, Jaime Alguersuari, just do like their whole sort of manifesto, and it was done like one of those party political broadcasts. And whether or not, you know, people like it from a sporting perspective, they can't argue about the rewards that it's given the fans in terms of the insight they get to the drivers and the quality of the engagement.
Some love it, some hate it, but Fan Boost is unique.
I think it's a really brave move. Whether it works or not, I don't know, because as I say, it's controversial, so lots of people like it, lots of people don't. And you know, I haven't quite made up my mind. I think from an out-and-out racing perspective, it's easy to see that as a little bit sort of false or a little bit contrived, if you like, but from a more sort of general social media side of things, and I think it's great that we are engaging fans, and typically younger fans as well, directly to the drivers and the teams.
Fans are treated well by Formula E, given the opportunity to meet the rising stars of this sport. Formula E is clearly reaching out to its audience, as we can see, and this is happening all over the world. Formula E currently reaches over 670 million viewers in 194 countries across 78 broadcasters. In the UK, it's Channel 5 who hold the rights to show this sport. As Season 4 approaches, this sport is only going one way. But how influential has digital engagement been?
Without social media, it would have been very hard to establish what I would call the hardcore foundations, the bedrock of our fan base. Last week we passed across Instagram, Twitter and Facebook 500,000, so we have 500,000 what I would consider to be hardcore fans now, which I don't think is bad in 2.5 seasons.
Formula E markets itself as urban racing, and it's clear to see why. Tempelhof Airport is only 4 miles away from Berlin city centre, whilst Monaco, Montreal and even New York are halted for the sport. London had Formula E fever as Battersea Park hosted races in the first 2 seasons. This is the start and finish line of the London E-Prix of 2015 and 2016. The message they brought was simple: environmental racing, and it certainly proved to be a hit. Councillor Jonathan Cook was involved in bringing the sport to London and tells me about the effect it had on attitudes to electric cars in the city.
I like to think that one of the things we did achieve was by doing it, we demonstrated the power of there could be no question that electric vehicles are very powerful if they need to be, and that the whole battery thing as well, is not we've shaken that perception a bit as well. So yeah, I hope that's changed. It's certainly changed between 2015 and 2016. I think people knew an awful lot more about it.
Formula E brought the electric buzz to the capital, but how has it helped since?
We think from the ticket data, something like 25,000 were local residents, so they got to go to a world-class sporting event. A lot of those tickets were a fiver. Quite a few of them were free, complimentary tickets as well, so there's all that side of things. And the business of the income that it brought as well. Over the 2 years, it brought in just under £3 million to the council.
The reason Formula E didn't return for a third season? It looked elsewhere. But there is a call for electric racing to return to the capital.
I would love to, yeah. I mean, it's my home city. It's a shame that we don't have a race in London anymore, but I hope that will change. I hope that we can get back there somewhere. I don't know where, but whether it's the O2, whether it's Pall Mall, I don't mind. Either would be great.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously being British, you always want to have a home race, and I really enjoyed my first race in London. Was in Formula E was in London, Battersea Park, and I always enjoyed racing in London, and it's where I live as well. So it'd be great to race in my home city.
It was announced in July 2017 that diesel cars would be banned in the UK from 2040. So Formula E looks to have left its mark.
Stick my neck out here. I think there's a bit of a prediction. I think yes. I think it'll be very different, and it's the sort of thing that it sort of gathers its own momentum, isn't it? Once some people start doing it, others think, hey, that's a good idea. I can do that. The big challenge most in the London boroughs have, certainly we have, is that if you park your car on the street outside your house and you don't have a drive, which is the vast majority of people who live in this part of London, you've got to have some sort of charging point on the street. You can't run the cable, so that's the challenge. Yeah.
Maybe Formula E could be making that more of a reality soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
Und da geht er nämlich jetzt als allerletzter.
This sport is well and truly off the start line, but where could it be in 5 years' time? We could see these guys for starters. This is Munich Motorsport, a student team which competes in the Formula Student Championships.
The inspiration comes from other teams, from Formula 1, Formula E. We say, okay, we take this one, and try to make it work together.
Interest has even grown from manufacturers, the most recent being Porsche, who announced in July 2017 they would end their association with Le Mans to take on Formula E.
That's the exciting thing. With all these manufacturers coming on board, I see the rate of development getting better and better. The car's getting quicker, more efficient, lasting longer. It's the new current kind of motorsport that we shall and will be experiencing for many generations to come.
So the future of motorsport is looking green.
The main word in this championship is efficiency, and that's what the whole world's going through.
Both on and off the track, engaging a younger audience.
What I would really like us to have done is something completely revolutionary. I don't know what that is, because I would like to think it's the next technological breakthrough that involves the fan in a way that you're not currently getting in any sport, not just motorsport, in any sport.
And bringing the sport directly to the people.
But I think we really are looking in Formula E to grab people off their sofas and bring them out of their front doors in their city centres. Come and watch some racing on your doorstep.
Whatever happens, electric racing and Formula E have come a long way.